Hi, welcome to Pro Football Retro. I am here for my first ever interview, and I have with me Greg Moser. Greg was a wide receiver for the Oregon Ducks, and then he went on to go to the USFL, and he played for the LA Express, the Houston Gamblers, and the Memphis Showboats. So thank you so much for being my guest here and joining me, Greg.
Not a problem. Thanks.
Yeah, yeah. So first, tell us what you've been doing since your playing days finished.
I've been involved in the investment industry, currently a financial advisors for LPL Financial. And
Okay.
since I stopped playing football, I've worked in Memphis and for US Bank and various other firms, but am kind of winding down my career here at LPL for the next few years or so.
Okay, cool. All right. And we're both from the Portland, Oregon area. Are there any activities you like to do or organizations you're involved in here in the Northwest?
Yeah, I'm avid fisherman and hunter. I have a place to duck hunt down just outside of Salem um,
Okay,
that we go to most Fridays, and I enjoy all outdoor activities, skiing, golf, and everything that the Northwest offers.
cool. Yeah, it's a fun place with the beach and the mountains and all the lakes and rivers. So that's cool to hear. And then you grew up in Hood River, right?
That is correct. Yeah, my
Okay.
dad was a veterinarian there, and it was a lot different valley than it is currently, but
Okay.
mainly just loggers and orchardists and all the or kind of adding industries that were involved with that, as well as the logging mills that were around.
Okay. Was the windsurfing a big thing back then or not yet?
No, it really didn't start taking off till 1983 or so. And the last time I lived full time in Hood River was the summer of 1979.
Oh, okay. Okay. So tell us how you got kind of started in football, your early days in the sport and kind of how you got going.
Yeah, Hood River was a small school. We only had 430 people or so and played in the Wilco League out of Portland, with most schools being a lot bigger. And that kind of facilitated that if you were anything athletically inclined, you played every sport. So
Okay.
I played football, baseball, and basketball and was on the ski team as well.
Oh, wow. Okay. Okay. And then when you went to Oregon to play for the Ducks, were you playing baseball too or just football or?
I did end up playing baseball in 1980 and 81.
Okay.
Coach Brooks had a philosophy that when you were a freshman, if you were going to run track or play baseball, you had to go through a full spring. So I didn't play in 1979, but got to play in 1980. Coach Brooks let you miss 10 of the 20 practices, and it was just a great experience playing for Mel Krause. And I'm still good friends with a lot of the baseball players I played with at Oregon for that time frame until the sport got cut.
Okay. Okay. And is it back now? I forget.
It is, yeah. They brought it back in 2009, um, and there's a group of us, a dozen or so, that have a suite down there that we frequent often, and we go to quite a few baseball games.
Oh, nice. Cool, cool. So the Oregon Ducks were not the national powerhouse they are now, back in the early 80s. But you had Brooks as your coach. What was it like, playing in Eugene, being a Duck in that time?
Well, it was fun. I was a walk-on. My only scholarship offer was from Mouse Davis, who was at Portland State. But after 2.5 weeks of camp or so, Coach Brooks said he'd put me on scholarship that winter term.
Okay.
And I redshirted my first year in 1978. And then in 79, I was the third wide receiver and held for extra points and kicks. That year we were 6-3-2, no, 6-5, when Reggie got there in 1979. And then 1980, we had our best year. And through a little bit of attrition, I ended up starting that year as a sophomore, led the team in receptions with 32 receptions, but we were
Hmm.
6-3-2. And one of the ties ended up being against USC in Eugene. And it was
Okay.
pretty exciting.
Cool, cool. Do you still follow the Ducks nowadays?
I do. I get down to a couple football games and know Dan Lanning a little bit. And it's kind of like old home week. My wife kind of gets tired of it every now and again because seeing the same thing and rehashing the same stories, but she was a
Right.
cheerleader down there in 1980, and that's how we met.
Oh, cool. Oh, cool. And yeah, it's way different now, right? With the stadium being always full and all the hype around them. My son lives close to the stadium and he can hear it, going on from like about a half mile away.
Oh, I bet.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
they have a song they play at the end of the first quarter, coming home. And when a buddy of mine saw it, he said, "You're in the video." And at the very end of it, I'm catching a pass against Oregon State.
Oh,
And when me
cool.
and my wife were watching it, and that's the only time I'm in there for about a second and a half, she ended up being in it three times.
Oh,
So
really?
kind of upstaged me as it goes.
Oh, that's funny. Cool. So then after college, you went into the USFL. So what was that process like? How did you get on the Express for that first year of the USFL?
Well, they were trying to bring back baseball, and I was playing on a club team. We played a regular NORPAC schedule, and kind of in the middle of that, the draft came and went, and I had four teams talking to me seriously. Bob Quinney was my agent. He was a local lawyer, and just so happened that on the pro day, I had really good times. I ran 4.53 and 4.55, and the LA Express scout was there and met with him afterwards. And soon after that, I got on the phone with Hugh Campbell, who was the head coach down there, and basically had Bob Quinney negotiate my contract, which basically was what the NFL minimum was at that time,
Okay.
and a little bit of a signing bonus. And that's how I ended up in LA. And that was the end of April, and played a little bit over half the season there.
Oh, okay. So you joined before you could have played in the NFL.
Correct. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
That would have been the spring of 1983, and the fall of 1983 was when I would have gone to the NFL if that was the case.
Okay. Okay. Neat. And then so your second year you went on to the Gamblers with Mouse Davis and Jim Kelly and that run and shoot. How fun was that as a receiver?
Oh, that was exciting. June Jones was my position coach, and of course, Mouse Davis was the offense coordinator. And I had a relationship with Mouse prior to that, so it was a lot of fun. They signed a lot of guys, and me and Scott McGee ran in the plays every other play,
Oh, okay.
and it was just with Jim at quarterback, you were always in the play.
Right.
You could not run his arm, and you had to have your head on a swivel all the time, even though you weren't maybe the primary receiver in the route.
Right. Yeah. And you had five or six, great receivers on that team, right? Was it
Yeah,
kind
yeah.
of like you all were pulling for each other, or was there like kind of one-upsmanship and
No, everybody was pretty much on the same page. They referred to us as the Musketeers, and ironically, I was the tallest receiver, 5'11" and 7'12".
Yeah.
They had Gerald McNeil, who they called the Ice Cube, Ricky Sanders, Richard Johnson, and then me and Scott McGee.
Yeah.
And I think Ricky was the next tallest guy at 5'9".
Yeah. Wow. Cool. And so you mentioned Jim Kelly. I'm a Bills fan, as you can kind of tell from my stuff in the back and everything. Uh, what was it like, playing with him, catching passes from him? What was he like as a leader, even as a rookie?
There was nobody better. I mean, in the huddle, he commanded it, and there was accountability, and you had to answer to Jim.
Yeah.
And he was very demanding with what he looked. And if he threw a bad ball, he was the first one to say, "My bad. I'll get it there next time." And when you made a catch or whatever, he was always patting you on the back. And he was just like nobody I had ever played with as far as being a leader and having the accountability. And just when it came down to that time, you knew he was going to come through. You
Yeah.
just knew it. And that kind of resonated with everybody else.
Yeah. He's quite the legend, and I've read his books and been following him with his cancer and all that, and he's just a neat guy too. Um, but what was it like catching those bullets from him?
Well, the whole thing about Jim was, I mean, he could throw it through you, but many times it was always a catchable ball.
Oh, okay.
And what was always unique was his brother Dan was kind of his um, assistant as it was, and he was at practice most times, and he was making so much more money than everybody that every Thursday, if we had a Sunday game, after the practice, Danny would come in wheeling a keg. Everybody would have a cold beer after practice on Jim, and if you ever went out with Jim, he said, him are on this credit card. Don't let
Yeah,
them pay for anything. And it
cool.
was always a lot of fun.
Neat, neat, cool. And then, so after the Gamblers, you went on to the Showboats, and you had your best year statistically. You caught for over 1,000 yards, and seemed to be one of the top targets down there. What was that year like for you?
Well, it was kind of bittersweet because I really loved Houston and playing for everybody. But Mouse had gotten moved to the head coach job at Denver, and he was really my advocate. And John Jenkins was there, and I don't think I ran fast enough for him, so I got traded to Memphis, which of course I thought my life was over. And going through training camp was kind of unique because it was the second week of training camp, and we had 3 weeks left. And when you're the outside guy coming in, that's why I learned how to be good friends with Jay Hayes because we got traded at the same time and nobody talked to us because you were there
Okay.
trying to take somebody's job. And when we shipped back to Memphis after training camp, I was rooming with, um, gosh, I'm going to forget his name, but it was a guy that was playing in front of me. And so the hotel phone rings, 8 o'clock in the morning. I pick it up and it's Jimmy Robinson, our position coach. And I thought, oh God, here it comes. Plane ticket back to Oregon. And he said, can I talk to Curtis, who was the starting wide receiver at that point?
Okay.
And so I stepped outside, and pretty soon I hear all kinds of language and yelling and screaming, and he was cut.
Oh,
So
wow.
they moved me to the starting receiver, and the rest, as they say, is history. Me and Derek had a very good um, working relationship, and he was the University of Memphis and kind of the hometown guy, and he caught more passes, and I caught more yards,
Yeah.
57 for 149 or something like that, or 1,149, I think it says on the back of my baseball or my football card.
Yeah. Cool, cool. Um, so then, I mean, you had your best year, you're riding high, and then, the USFL starts wanting to be a fall league or going through all that stuff. What was that like being in limbo, and kind of tell me about that year?
Well, it was when they announced we went ahead and had two mini camps in the spring and early summer, and then they um, decided to knock it down to just 12 players on a team. I was one of the 12
Hmm.
that still got paid for that year, and everything was going to be just like it was, and we were going to not go in 86, but definitely go in 87. And then the court case came down, ruled in the USFL's favor, but the monetary award was only $3. So
Right.
it kind of disbanded after that. And I was scrambling for a job. Tom Condon was my agent at the time. And I mean, he has been very successful at his craft over the years. And I couldn't get a job. I mean, I was kind of seemed like a dime a dozen, and everybody that wanted to add fourth or fifth wide receiver wanted a burner. They wanted somebody that could take the top off the defense, and
Hmm.
I wasn't that guy. I mean, if they had slot receivers like they do now, it may have been a different story. But
Right.
I didn't want to go to Canada, and I was getting married the next April, and it was just apparently that was my time to be done.
Yeah. Wow. And what about the like NFL strike in '87? I know a lot of the USFL players crossed the picket line and did that. Were you interested in that, or were you already going on your career? Or
I was going on my career, and ironically, I heard from 28 of the 30 teams,
oh wow.
and I almost went to Tampa, but after talking with my wife and the guys that I work for, I just was ready to have football in my rearview mirror.
Okay. Wow. And then so nowadays they have resurrected the USFL, and now it's called the UFL, and that first year there was the Gamblers. Now the Gamblers aren't anymore, but the Showboats are still going. Have you followed that new league and seeing those uniforms back? Have you kept in touch with that?
Yeah, one of my good friends, Mike Nolan, who I played with at Oregon, and was longtime coach in the NFL and head coach for the 49ers, was the head coach of the Michigan team.
Okay.
And they ended up last 2 years ago, they won the championship. This last year, they were runner up. But I kind of followed it through them, and I went back to see him in San Antonio during their training camp 2 years ago, and it was good to be around the guys. And there's everybody always asks, what is it that I really miss from football? And it's the locker room and the camaraderie and everything else that goes with it. I mean, game day is game day. It doesn't matter whether it's Friday night high school, Saturday football at college, or Sunday afternoons. It's always that same rush and intensity that I really haven't done anything to duplicate it.
Yeah.
It's just one of those that game day is game day, and
Right.
I don't miss the practice and I don't miss the preparation, but it definitely game day and the locker room camaraderie is something that I really haven't ever duplicated in my anything I've done.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Speaking of camaraderie and that, I forgot, when you were on Memphis, Reggie White was there. And,
Right.
he's kind of an outgoing, big personality. And Pepper Rogers, the coach, was kind of a, wacky prankster kind of guy. What was the camaraderie or the locker room like in Memphis then?
It was a great group of guys, and Pepper Rogers was terrific to play for. There was our offense coordinator Charlie Waller quit the fourth game, and we're in Denver.
Hmm.
And so Jimmy Robinson and Gary Huffman, who was our third string quarterback, he's up in the booth now, and they're calling plays together. And it was about third quarter or so, and we're hanging on to a lead. College timeout. Mike Kelly comes over, and we're talking about what play to call. And Pepper Rogers comes in and said, "No, no, 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 no! I want that one where shirt drags across, Crawford goes deep, and throw it to Moser over the middle." I mean, he didn't even know our terminology. So Jimmy steps back and goes, "Okay, X post Z cross Y drag,
Yeah.
ready break." And we went out and completed it. But Pepper had
Cool.
a TV show after every game, and it was always a riot. I got to be on it twice, and
Uh-huh.
you just really never knew what was going to happen. But you had to stay
Cool.
on your toes. The only rule was you couldn't be funnier than him. He had to be the lead dog. So
Right.
that was
Fun.
okay.
Cool, cool. Was there anybody else in that USFL era that, was stand out and you knew they were going to be, Hall of Fame type people like Reggie White, Jim Kelly? Was there anybody else that just blew you away?
No, the toughest guy I ever went against, Frank Minifield,
Mm,
who played at Cleveland years after that and was all pro several years. And not a big guy, about 5'9", but he had arms that were so long that you really had to work to get by him.
mm,
And I got the best of him a couple times. And when I was at Houston, me and Scott McGee brought the plays in, and Scott was known for a little bit of a trash talker.
mhm.
Okay, a lot bit of a trash talker. And I'm sure Frank, we were both white, had long hair,
Uh-huh.
and I'm sure he couldn't tell the difference between the two of us. But I go out there about the second or third series, and he is breathing snot bubbles. I mean, he is mad as hell. And it was kind of a cheap shot the rest of the whole game. And I got to the sideline and said, "Scott, what the hell are you talking to Frank for?" He goes, yeah, I'm in his head. I think I got him. He goes, "Well, who do you think's got to go against him too?"
That's funny. That's a good one.
But
Um,
he was a great player.
cool. Yeah, I kind of had forgotten about him playing in the USFL. Thanks for that.
Yeah, he was at Arizona.
Yeah. Okay. So in the current NFL, is there any receivers you like watching? Is there anybody you follow particularly?
I always liked watching Julian Edelman,
Hmm.
and Bobby Chandler was one of my favorites back in the
Okay.
day. And I've got to know Fred Biletnikoff a little bit from a golf tournament that they had up here with Dan Fouts and the late Dave Wilcox. But I was kind of gravitated towards guys that were more my style rather than the
Hmm.
Jerry Rices of the world. But for the guys that good route runners, catch the ball across the middle, and are team guys. That's kind of who I gravitate towards.
Okay, cool. Yeah, there's a lot more of that, like, because most teams have three wides most of the time, and so there's a lot more of
Right.
that slot, over the middle stuff. The Bills had Cole Beasley a couple years ago, and he was just Mr.
Right.
Reliable. If Allen couldn't find anybody else, he'd dump it to Cole, and now we have Khalil Shakir out of Boise State, and he's doing kind of the same thing, and he's good at run after the catch. So I like
Yeah.
watching those guys too that can run a really good route.
Yeah. There was one story that involves Reggie White that he had a habit of picking up dirt, and when the lineman bent over, he'd dump it down his their back of the helmet, and he thought it was a riot.
Yeah.
And one time I'm coming back, and the other receivers are taking time off, and I've got to run scout team, and I'm not happy about it. It's hot as hell in Memphis,
Uh-huh.
and as I'm walking back, I get involved in the dust throwing just all over my face.
Uh,
And right behind where the huddle was kind of a leaky sprinkler. So I picked up a gob of mud, walked up behind Tyrone Griff, and threw it right at Reggie, just drenched him up and down and in his face. And
uh-huh.
I thought, all right, my life may be over. And Reggie just kind of took a step back and smiled, and I was sure he's going to come after me, and didn't. And
Yeah.
then we're at the end of the year party down at Billy Donovan's ranch down in Mississippi. And I'm walking in there, and it's a beautiful place. And it's got this huge pool. And all of a sudden, behind me, my arm and my leg, I'm above Reggie's head.
Oh, wow.
Now you better get out anything you don't want to get wet. So ditch my wallet, ditch my car keys. And I swear to God, from 10 yards from the pool, he threw me in. I landed in the middle.
Oh,
I'm kind of
wow.
scrambling out. And he says, okay, Mo, now we're even.
Yeah. Revenge is a dish best served cold, right? As they say.
Yeah.
Wow, that's funny. And
Yeah. And
I've
it was
heard he's just like
just
the
tragic when
strongest
we
guy.
lost Reggie. It was just good man gone too soon.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. He was amazing, and it's hard to argue that anybody ever was better. So,
Right.
um, but yeah, we're coming up on the time here on our Zoom call. But is there anything we haven't covered that you're kind of wanting to get out to the listeners or the viewers? Any parting thoughts or any parting messages you want to convey?
Well, I really enjoyed my time in the USFL because it wasn't how it is now, where it's always second tier players. We
Hmm.
had a lot of guys that went on to have very, very nice careers, and it was just a great deal at 1,800 more jobs, both coaching and playing.
Right.
And it was just a great experience. I wish they could have stayed in the spring and played for another dozen years.
Yeah, yeah, I really loved watching it as a Portland kid. We had season tickets for the Breakers,
Yeah,
and our season tickets were like $35. Um,
yeah.
so it was amazing. And I think you guys came to Portland with Memphis, right?
Right. We got to play back there one game late in the season, and it was a lot of fun. My mom and dad were there, and a lot of the population of Hood River was right behind our bench,
Oh,
and
cool,
it was kind of thrilling to be back and play in front of them.
cool. Homecoming, right?
Yep.
I did hear that Civic Stadium with that just thin rug of a turf was not the best place to play for as a player.
No, as a matter of fact, the Shrine game, my senior year, I intercepted a pass and came down and separated my shoulder
Oh, wow.
just from landing on the ground. I mean, it was that hard,
Yeah.
and wasn't the most desirable place to play or probably practice.
Yeah, right. Kind of concrete covered in a thin rug, right?
That's exactly right.
Yeah, yeah. Well, cool. Well, it has been so fun talking to you and hearing your stories and getting some insight to the old USFL. And I really thank you for your time. It's been a great way to get this off the ground. And I appreciate your time so much, Greg.
Not a problem. If you ever have time for a beer, I'm always up for a cold one after work.
All right, great. Thanks, and thanks for all you guys for watching. And stay tuned. I hope to interview some more USFL players.